Hey guys, so this is your third Photoshop demo, and I'm just going to keep adding to the skills that you already have. So just to review, so far you've learned how to navigate your workspace, you've learned a few things about what layers are, and you've learned how to add an image and free transform it so that you can change the size of it. The next thing I'm going to show you is how to add text and how to add different shapes and how to edit them a little bit and get them to change colors and do a couple of different effects. So again, we're just slowly adding to our knowledge of different tools here, just doing one at a time. So the tools I'm going to show you today are first your different shape tools, and typically the shape tool that you'll see is the rectangle tool, which I'm hovering over right here, but it is stacked over all the other shape tools. So if I click and hold here, I've got my rectangle tool, rounded rectangle that has rounded corners, ellipse, which means circles and ovals and everything round, polygon, so any multi-sided shape such as a triangle, a hexagon, a square. Well, I guess you'd make a square with your rectangle tool. Anyway, multi-sided shapes, your line tool, and your custom shape tool. So with your custom shape, you can make pretty much any kind of shape, and there's also a bunch of stock symbol shapes such as like bells or hearts or whatever if you go to the custom shape. So let's take it easy. Let's start with a rounded rectangle. So you might be, you might be making a flyer or adding some other kind of graphic element here. So once you have your shape tool selected, you should see it change here, but then also pay attention to what happens up here. The options that are available up here correspond to the tool that you're in. So I've selected this shape tool and my options are reflected up here. I can also click on these drop downs and I can do different things. I want this to say shape here for now. We'll be talking about these other options at a later time. And then the main thing I wanted to focus on today, well, I wanted to see if I could zoom in here, but hopefully you can see this says the word fill and this says the word stroke. And this fill has a little box next to it that's colored in, and the stroke has a white rectangle that's hollow in the middle and has a red slash through it. There's the word 1 and PX, which stands for pixel here. There's a little line. Each of these has a little upside down arrow that means there's a drop down menu. So that means that there's more options that you can look at here. And then the rest of these, I don't know that I've ever used, but they will let you align your object along the left or right side or center or whatever. Or they'll let you do different things with layers. For the most part, I just use these options. So to create a shape, you can click and drag, and you'll notice that another window pops up. Depending on what you have set up here, this may or may not happen, but your options pop up here as well. So one thing you'll start to notice about Photoshop is that the same things appear in multiple places. So it's designed to make it so that people who have different preferences as in terms of where they access information can go multiple places to find things, so that it basically can be organized in different ways. I find that kind of annoying because then it feels like there's like 50 times as many things as there are, but it's like, oh, it's just the same thing again, only it's over here and then it's also over here and it's also up here. It's a little bit crazy. But for the sake of argument, I'll just edit it right here. It is literally the same as doing it down here. So basically your fill is what's inside of your shape. You can see I've got this brown color. If I wanted to change that, I can double click and I can choose from these swatches, which are like little paint chips. And you see it just automatically changes. Or I can navigate around here, and then eventually I can use that to change, although it doesn't look like it's happening automatically. So, I mean, there is a way that I can do that, but for the most part, it looks like this is where I can create new swatches, but it's not going to automatically change the color of my shape. These are the properties of my actual shape. So, I can go here to this drop down, and I can say that this is how you actually manage the display here. You can create a new swatch based on these recently used colors, aka you can add to your little collection here. If you click here, let's see if that'll do it. Yeah, that did it. So this is, again, me accessing the same thing that's over here. So that's why sometimes it's confusing, because it's like, well, where do I look for it? And also all of these can be opened or closed, etc. So you'll figure it out. What you'll notice is that this has green fill right now, but it has no outline. That's because this right here has a red slash through it. That means I don't have any stroke. In Photoshop, the outline of an object or the outline of text is called the stroke. Okay, so fill and stroke. If I want a red stroke on here, I just click red, and then it should change, but you probably can't see it because it is so thin. So it was on 1 pixel before, which is literally, just not very big. And you can see as I drag this down, it gets smaller and smaller, and then as I increase it, it gets larger and larger. So you may think that there isn't a stroke, but just check how wide it is, because it may be that you just can't see it. Also, this is the style of stroke. So it's a solid line. I can also make it a dotted line or a super dotted line. Yeah, I guess those are your only stroke options. I feel like there are more than that. Well, 3 is pretty good. Anyway, so that's how you can do a fill and stroke on a shape. And let's say that I wanted to do a different kind of shape. Like, let's try my custom shapes. So my custom shapes, there are lots of different options. Like this one has an arrow selected, but if I just right click, aka 2-finger click, again, not double click, 2 fingers on the trackpad, I can choose from all these different options. So right now, I don't know what like menu this is, but if you go here to the little starburst, you can just say, oh, I want to look at the animal shapes. Yes. And then you could be like, oh, I want to draw a bunny. And then you get a bunny. So there's lots of fun options. Keep in mind this can get out of control pretty fast, obviously, and this photograph is super crazy now, and so I'm not suggesting that you turn in work that looks like this, but I'm just kind of showing you what happens. This is so crazy. I'm just showing what happens when you create a shape that has a fill and a stroke. Again, I think that the stroke makes it look a little bit hokey a lot of the time. I usually do shapes without a stroke on, but that's just something to think about. And then if you hate these and you want to delete them, whoops, you can just delete the layer that they're in, right? So I just deleted all those layers and I'm back to my original. And again, I can undo that by going back in my history and going back to before I did all those deletes, but I actually don't want them, so I deleted them. Last thing I'm going to show you is how to do text. So if you type or you hit your T, you have 2 options. Oh, you have 4 options: horizontal type masking, and horizontal type masking. We haven't learned masking yet, so let's just do horizontal type like normal people. So, hi, it's the type tool. Can you see that? No, of course you can't because it's very small. So I'm going to hit Command A to select all because I know that it's going to select everything in there. I'm going to make it big so that you can see it. Oh, it still really isn't very big. If you wanted to make it bigger than this, you can just go up here to this number and type in whatever number you want. And since 72 wasn't big enough and 100 is not big enough, I'm going to make it really big. There we go. Okay. So as long as I have the right layer selected, when I use my move tool, it's only going to move the text, right? Because I'm in my type layer. Let's say that I wanted to change the color of my text. I'm trying to double click here, but nothing's happening because I'm in my move tool. So if I go back to my type tool and I select everything, you can see here's my fill. I want it to be blue, maybe. Aqua. Yeah,